All right. Welcome back. As we await the arrival of Pat Buchanan, I want to do a reality check for you. And I want to present to you a woman who needs a reality check oh so badly, one Debbie Wasserman Schultz. And, I'm sorry to say when Debbie Wasserman Schultz speaks, you always have to check the truth meter. Now, this is allegedly her opinion. There's no way to say that this is true or false. You can't get inside Debbie Wasserman Schultz's head, and thank God you can't. Keep that in mind. All right, but here she is on CNN, and Debbie Wasserman Schultz asked about what the November elections might have in store for the House. I believe she's with Carol Costello, if I'm not mistaken, and this is the first video.
On that, I know a lot can happen and normally does between now and November. From your perspective, how are the chances looking that Democrats could possibly regain control of the House? I know the way it's described to me is it's not likely.
Well, I think we have tremendous opportunities across the country. I think we're going to pick up seats. I think it's very clear that a lot of constituents across the country have buyer's remorse from the Tea Party Republicans that they elected in 2010. The Republican Party has essentially voted in lockstep to shut the government down, to follow Ted Cruz and the Tea Party off the cliff and take the country with it.
All right. She thinks there's a good, first of all, the stupidest question I've ever heard. It wasn't Carol Costello. It was that host from the morning show who looks like she never smiled a day in her life. She's like, what do you think the chances are that she's, just looks so unhappy. Anyway, neither here nor there. But what are the chances that you'll take back the House? Take back the House? How about that you don't lose 50 more seats? How about that people in the Democratic Party are deciding not to run? How about asking a question with the legitimacy? But there she gave the code words. Debbie Wasserman Schultz is taught to give code words. She said Tea Party twice. She said off the cliff. She said government shutdown. She said Ted Cruz. She said lockstep. Lockstep. You know what I mean? Yeah, so she's no idiot. Here's the next video.
Look, we don't all have to agree on everything, but people do want us to sit down and work together. In the town hall meetings that I have when I'm home in South Florida, people just say, Debbie, you're all to blame. And they're fed up and sick of government. And they're losing their confidence that we actually have the ability to get things done.
To you. But the remedy, one of the remedies that we could bring to you, and I can't think of a better remedy, is our friend Patrick J. Buchanan. Hello, sir.
How are you?
Good. Always good to hear your voice. And great piece that I've seen today in Human Events, How Freedom Dies, and it's talking about the very controversial Arizona bill that I think awaits the veto of Jan Brewer, because I think she's going to veto it.
That would be my guess. I think she would hurt herself very badly if she did not.
So what's your take on this bill? I haven't read the bill. I do know that I believe the intent of the bill is to protect the business owners of Arizona from what other business owners in other states have suffered, and you point some of those out in your column, where bakers and photographers have lost their businesses, been fined all kinds of money, been found guilty of discrimination because they refused to photograph a gay wedding or bake a cake for a gay wedding. And then we had Ari Fleischer on at the top of last hour who said he believes, or he's heard, that the bill goes further and says that you have a right now under that bill not to serve a gay person food in a restaurant. So I don't know where we are.
Well, I'm not sure whether that's there, but I will say this. To these individuals, the fellow that's the baker, he didn't want to bake a cake for a homosexual wedding, a same-sex union, because he said, basically, it violates my religious beliefs, the same-sex union, and I don't want to work on something like that. I don't want to be a party to it or a part of it. It seems to me he's exercising his own personal and religious freedom, and the idea that you would pass a law to punish him for behaving according to his beliefs, it seems to me the quintessence of un-Americanism.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree with you more.
And there's another point here. They compare these to the civil rights era. Now, I grew up in Washington, D.C. when it was segregated, when all the schools, public schools were segregated, and it was a serious problem. A black couple driving to, say, from D.C. to Texas would have a tough time finding a restaurant or a hotel or a motel which would serve him and his family. So there was a gigantic national problem of discrimination against African Americans. But I find a hard time believing that a same-sex couple is persecuted because a baker won't bake them a cake.
Yeah, no, look, when Rosie O'Donnell calls herself the Rosa Parks of her time, when they talk about Jason Collins, the first gay player in the NBA, Jackie Robinson, it's as, to me, obscene and diminishes the accomplishments of those aforementioned people as when Jesse Jackson stands there and says Trayvon Martin was Emmett Till.
Well, it's gone from the sublime to the ridiculous here. The point is, everybody is claiming victim status. But the truth is, there is no doubt there was rampant discrimination against black Americans in education, in housing, and in public accommodations, and in voting. But that's what I said in my column. Look, when you got more black officials elected black officials in the state of Mississippi than any state in the Union, we don't have the same situation we had at Selma Bridge. And it is time to move on. And quite frankly, some of these civil rights laws, in my judgment, once the job that they were passed to do has been done, the reason they are continuing is because it is this gigantic bureaucratic empire that has been built up and erected to sit on top of all of us and oversee and police and monitor every decision we make in our corporate or personal lives.
All right, interesting that you said that Jan Brewer probably ought to veto it if she, doesn't want to suffer the political consequences. That's not exactly what you said, but of course she's not running for governor again.
Well, I think just in terms of her also, maybe you shouldn't put it in just political terms. I think that's consistent with her beliefs as a conservative. You do not force people to do things against their religious convictions unless it is, when you're talking about drafting people for a war when the survival of the country is there, even in that case, we used to have, people could be conscientious objectors, and if other people could be, do non-lethal work in the military. But the idea of forcing bakers and flour makers to contribute to things they believe are wrong, I think that goes against the grain of any traditional conservative, and I believe Jan Brewer believes herself to be one.
So I misunderstood you. So you said she probably should not veto it.
Well, no, look, what I want...
No, you said at the beginning, I said she looks like she's going to veto it, and I thought you said she probably should if she doesn't...
What I think is she should defend the rights of these religious folks.
Right.
And that's exactly right.
Right. Okay, I agree with you. But what do you think she'll do?
I think that's what she will do.
Oh, good. Okay, I misunderstood at the beginning. I'm sorry. I misunderstood.
Well, maybe I misspoke or something like that.
No.
But, I think it's pretty clear what we're getting at.
Right. No, the Monkees once made a song called "It's a Little Bit You, a Little Bit Me." So maybe we combined on that one. All right. Let me. Eric Holder today, comes out with talking to the attorneys general of the United States and says, hey, if you're in a state where traditional marriage is the law. You don't have to go to court to defend that law. Don't defend the law. Don't follow the law. Where does this end?
Well, that's, we get back to civil rights. What would they say if conservative attorneys general decline to enforce the civil rights law? They say, we just disagree with that. Or Obamacare. They say, we're not going to move on this material. We don't like it. We think it's wrong. We think the country's now against it, so we're not going to enforce it. That way lies anarchy. Yeah,
no, you're absolutely right. It does lie anarchy. I just don't know where it ends, because it seems like we just had a congressman on from the great state of Illinois who's trying to pass some bills protecting the people from the IRS, Peter Roscom, and he said he thinks that it's the administration, their whole goal is to come out with one of these things every day and just keep everyone's head spinning, so you'll just give up, you get frustrated and not know where to fight, and give up and not fight anywhere. Do you think that the Republicans are handling this grab of power and lawlessness, if you will, effectively?
No, I don't, to be honest. And I think what the other side has sort of got the bit in its teeth, this gay marriage thing or same-sex unions, whatever you want to call them, there's no doubt it's got immense popular or very widespread popular support among the young, and the media are behind it 1,000%. And they're over there, of course, they're bashing Putin in the Olympics because they reject the homosexual propaganda being distributed to children. And the movement is becoming very, very powerful, and it feels though, and it obviously believes it's running with the tide. But I think what you have to do in these cases is simply stand tall for what you believe in. And by the way, Steve, you're correct. I was mistaken about the governor in the first statement. What I meant to say was she's going to stand with those Christian folks.
Oh, how do you know that?
I believe that.
How do you know what you said in the beginning? You must have someone listening.
Well,
okay.
The point was, when you said veto it or not veto it,
Oh, okay.
I was thinking whether she's going to stand with the...
I got you. Okay.
She's going to stand up to the intimidation.
All right, so it was all you and not me. So it's a new Monkees song if they ever have a reunion without Davy Jones, of course. All right, let me ask you this. Quickly on foreign policy and Ukraine, where's this going to wind up, and is Putin going to let it wind up in some kind of sharing of power, maybe splitting the state east, the eastern part to him?
I don't think, to be honest, I don't believe President Putin wants to divide Ukraine. I don't believe he's going to invade. But I do think there's no doubt about it with this, frankly, a popular coup d'etat overthrowing an elected leader, incompetent though he was, has created a tremendous backlash in parts of the country where people say, look, we put the guy in office, and he was our guy, and his decision to go with Moscow, he had a perfect right to make, whether it was popular or not, and now he's been overthrown by people who set up an encampment and barricades and fought with cops and engaged in battle and burned buildings and basically threw the president out, and they're now running him down and putting him on trial for murder. So I think you're going to have a tremendously divided country here, and I think it's in the interest not only of the United States and the Europeans, but of the Russians as well, not to have this thing torn apart, because we'll have a battle over who owns the Crimea and all the rest of it. But I'm not one of those who believes that Putin wants any kind of military or confrontation or collision, but I will say this. They certainly do have a right to be angry and ticked off in Moscow when they made the deal with the president and he capitulated, said we're going to move the elections up to December. I'm going to shift power to the parliament. We're going to have an amnesty for the folks who have been in Maidan Square. And I'm going to bring people into my government from the opposition parties. And then he winds up 24 hours later, he's on the lam.
Right, yeah. No, very, very interesting.
This is a very, it's very interesting, Steve. You take a look, Caracas, take a look at Cairo, take a look at Kiev. All three, even though the leaders there were unpopular and you could get masses in the streets, and you get them out there in Caracas now, all three of these were elected democratically in what I believe were called free and fair elections at the time, and all three are in the process. Two are gone, and three are in the process of being driven from power. By this type of operation, we are setting a precedent that's going to come home to bite us.
Yeah, no, I hear you. Pat, always great to talk to you. A lot of fun and very interesting. Thank you, my friend.
Hope I didn't get the governor wrong there.
No. I think you cleared it up completely. Thank you. That's Pat Buchanan, ladies and gentlemen. And when we come back, we are going to talk to Mike Baker, former CIA covert agent and host of America Declassified on the Travel Channel, right here on the Steve Malzberg Show on Newsmax Television.